Well, here we go. Bruce,
Hey,
are
Towns?
you there?
Yeah.
Bruce McDonald, director of Pontypool,
Tony Burgess, screenwriter, actor,
actor,
yeah.
songwriter.
Songwriter. I guess people have seen the movie and they're watching it again. Is that the idea?
That's the very idea right there. And they're sitting there going, well, I wonder what they got to say. Apparently not much.
Well, I thought we would, instead of going through this, we could be in a script meeting here. We've got our treatments here for Pontypool 2, which is called Pontypool Changes, and we've got Pontypool 3, which is Pontypool Changes.
Everything.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, see this thing right here? This wavering voice thing?
Yeah.
Was that synchronized up to his voice?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah, I think so. And then they kind of, did a little extra, but it kind of bounces to his voice, I think.
Is it? Okay.
We should have that for our commentary track, don't you think?
Because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that's bouncing to my voice right now.
That'd be good. Jeff, you could arrange that?
No, we're out of money. So
Jeffrey, our producer, is sitting over there, so
Yeah.
feel free to chime in anytime. So anyway, let's just get to get to work. This is done.
Pontypool 2 is done.
No, Pontypool 1's done.
Pontypool 1's done.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's pretty good. You know.
What do you mean it was pretty good? It was pretty great.
I think so. I think it's pretty. Yeah, it's for what it as what it serves as our introduction. Really, this is our secret agenda that we're revealing to the people right now. Right?
Yeah. If anybody was hungry for, oh, look at that typo, typoo.
Yeah. Tell us about that. What's the typo?
Well, that was actually a feature when the name of the book, Pontypool Changes Everything. Caught a glance of the word Pontypool driving through Pontypool on a sign, and I thought, oh, that's it. And I was actually taking a photograph for a book, Elmas of Beauty, and thought that was just such a bizarre-looking word, just looking word. You know what I mean? Before I even said it in my head, and then wrote it down and thought I would use it, and then saw then at the time typo in there.
Was right inside the word.
Was right inside the word, and that was kind of one of the triggers to the whole book. And then when we were sitting down trying to figure out how to do that, I remember it all came back to me that it was typo was part of that.
Yeah, I was quite delighted when you showed that to me on the paper.
Yeah, and that was like it was the fourth day of shooting. I was driving back from, and I went, oh yeah, shit, that would be good for typo, typoo. I don't know whose idea that was.
And well, I could ask you some questions, I suppose, right?
Yeah, you do that.
Right, before we get into our work here.
Yeah.
For the next. So you're, gosh, how would we describe this? I remember when this movie was going to be one shot.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Well, yeah. It's ridiculous, but I think that you want to start from a ridiculous place. Me, anyway, that's what I like to do. You start from like an enormous set of restrictions that are just, impossible to deal with. And if you can make that succeed, then it's only a matter of how big do you want to make it for that experience to be satisfying. You know what I mean? Like, how big is the frame going to go so that you can actually have an audience. But for the point of view of sort of writing it, it's like, okay, the challenge is got to make everything work. A siege, the end of the world, enormous, countries involved and levels of media, and have it all work in a 6 by 6 inch space. You can do that just from a writing perspective, and make it sort of have all of those rhythms and paces and action. It has to be an action film in a 6 inch space. You can do that, then the cinematographer and the director, whoever, and the actors can figure out how much bigger do you have to go before an audience buys it.
Right.
And don't go bigger.
Right.
Because you're going to lose that kind of the tight knots of the original principle, right?
Is that what happens when you go bigger, you think? Or
yeah, if you go bigger than the knots that you tied in the original conception, then it's going to look like, oh, okay, so we're going out here because we got a little bag of tricks and we got to use them, or something. You know what I mean? And then you're not, because remember we had and Miroslav was so on board with the idea of.
Miroslav's our cinematographer.
Cinematography, and Jeremy too, the editor, and you and me, we were all sort of like guard dogs for the perimeter of the film, right? No, we don't step over there. No, don't step over there.
That's right.
There was arguments, right? Well, do we have a shot outside? The shot of the loudspeaker. Even this stuff of him coming in, like, is that too much?
Right.
There was arguments about that. I remember Jeremy was like the most militaristic about that. That you could not, don't go outside.
Correct.
And
yeah.
don't suggest that it's happening. Even the idea that the zombies walk in, or not zombies,
Right.
whatever you call them,
conversationalists.
Yeah. was an argument that was constantly had by the sort of border guards of the film, right?
Do you feel having Grant Mazzy in the car at the beginning, is that sort of breaking the rule too much, or is
No, I'm not, because I had the luxury of sort of like early on establishing and with you compromising those rules, because I mean that was the sort of question from the beginning, right? Compromising them, establishing them. Well, how do we compromise them? So we were always listening, right? To okay, so this and that and this and that. And originally, if you remember, we had scripts and versions where we were back at his house, his apartment, or
Right.
we were out here. We did all
We
this
went to the
stuff.
store
And how once your arms start going out there, is it too much to keep the heart of the thing full of blood? And so we pulled back. I think that because of the way that, and I think Miroslav was smart in doing it, the way that car looks, it completely looks
kind of surreal?
like it looks very dreamlike and kind of almost two-dimensional, almost like you're not in a car.
Yeah.
Almost like you can actually feel that car just sitting on a lot somewhere being shot with a snow machine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is was very nice. Had a nice sort of artificiality.
That's like an old 40s movie or something.
Yeah.
Well, back to the box, too. I remember the first visual conception of the film was not even, well, you talked about a frame, but I remember when we recorded you, it's another version of the script, but we recorded you reading the script. And we had and we were going to make the visual just be what you see at the begining of this film, which
That's
is
right.
the voice pattern.
The
right?
voice pattern.
And that was going to be the movie.
That was going to be it.
Yeah.
In fact, we were quite serious about that for a day and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we recorded it too, right?
Yeah, we absolutely did.
So then
That's
I
good.
guess we go from that to then the one shot of Grant Mazzy in the booth, which, conceptually kind of been pretty interesting, where you just hear the voices of Laurel Ann Drummond and Sidney Breyer.
That's right. We were just going to have Laurel Ann Drummond was a character we heard about, and Sidney Breyer was going to be a character we heard, and
Right.
Grant Mazzy's face was going to be the battlefield
Right.
for everything. Which then we just sort of pulled the frame out a little bit, so that it's watchable. And Miroslav does this great stuff with these shots here, just keeping it as a kind of slow-moving dance. Because we also talked about that too, right? That we wanted a kind of classical look, as opposed to handheldy, jerky,
Right.
As soon as you see a film, and there's so many of them now, they're sort of shot on digital or whatever, and they're just sort of like, they just go effects nuts for just in kind of editing
Right,
and cutting.
right.
It's like, so
Great.
why do we have to see, because somebody's going up the stairs, right?
Well, it creates a kind of a sense of excitement, I suppose, or maybe it's a false excitement.
It's a false excitement, and it's a false, you've already seen these in 1,000 other films, so you know that they're doing it only because they can.
Right.
Or it's that 7 dirty lo-fi feel that's a broken DVD or broken digital machinery that's recording it. It's Brian Eno's keyboard thrown down the stairs, right? What?
What? All right.
Yeah.
So
But
good.
Pawnee 2 and 3,
Yeah.
because we're going to make them for $100 to $200 million.
Yeah.
What? This Jeff's laughing back there, but he doesn't know.
Probably 100 for
He doesn't
2
know.
and 100 for 3, right? So that's 200. So
Yeah.
makes sense.
But and we were talking about this on the way over here. You don't know how bloodthirsty, splatter-hungry we really are. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to see
People watch this and they think we're restrained.
little bookish boys.
Yeah.
No. I want to see freaking heads coming off, and I want to see guts. The number 2 and 3 are distasteful.
Yeah. They are
Whereas
just-
this is quite restricted. They're
Yeah.
distasteful and perverse.
Yeah.
Where we had that problem. That was part of our problem for years, right? Trying to get.
People are so grossed
They're
out.
like, you can't do this. This is too horrifying.
Right.
Wow.
So what do you think this film, is it going to serve that function as the entree to the real project?
Well, yeah, because I hope, I think that there is a lot of questions that are still lingering at the end of this, and people are wondering, well, how did, what is, and which is what we said, right? The first film is going to be, well, what's going on, right? I wouldn't necessarily get an answer to that,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the second one is, this is what's going on, right? And so, you know, that's a natural.
Right.
Who doesn't want to know that?
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people, but, you know.
And and the third one?
Holy shit, now what are we going to do? I can't remember.
Yeah.
No, it's...
That wouldn't be bad. Holy shit, now we're... Okay, so
Yeah,
first
well,
one is
the
what's
first
going
one
on.
is,
Second
well,
one is
what's going on?
what's
Second
happening.
is, this is what's happening.
This is what's happening.
And it takes place simultaneous to this. So I don't know what you call it. It's not a prequel it's an equal.
It's an equal.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's an equal. So it happens simultaneous. So you actually hear this radio broadcast is actually, you know, where in A Night of the Living Dead or whatever, you've got this stuff in the background.
Yeah.
We've had reports of people actually cannibalizing but coming back to life. And you've got that. That's a real feature of a
Right.
Romero film or, you know, a classical zombie film.
So this
And
is
so
basically
this is
the TV.
we're in the TV here,
Yeah.
or in the radio.
Yeah.
And number two is people listening to that. You know what I mean? It's the town who's got that playing in the background.
Right, and they're experiencing the visceral kapow of what's
yeah.
going on, right?
Yeah, and we've got some tricks up our sleeves, right?
Yeah.
About how we play that out. It's
Yeah.
not that, you know, if people are wondering whether we're going to go. We don't have the same 6-inch box restriction.
Right.
We don't.
Because when you know, we announced we're making Pontypool 2, people assume it's in the radio station. It's the same movie, but different day or something, probably.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But you know, number 2 and number 3 were actually conceived before this one, so they have you know, they have their own animals. You know, you worry about the kind of follow-up syndrome that some films have, like Blair Witch. Did you ever see Blair Witch 2?
No.
I don't know what the deal was.
Is
They
it
got
more
a
being
little bit
lost?
more
Was
money.
it more
so-
being lost in the woods, or just like
No, it was running around in a barn or something. With now it was in color, and they had explosions and stuff. But oh my gosh, it was, you know. But yeah, there's a huge difference between Ponty 1's sort of veritables and Ponty 2's
right?
thing. Ponty 2 is it's a kind of Postman Always Rings Twice with a little bit of well, and then we've got that great scene at the end. Anyway.
With the another.
Oh yeah. I came up with a great line for that. I just recently just sort of sitting around cooking around with it, and it's just so boneheaded. So
With less in the house.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So let's just do a little recap to let people know where it's been. This is, as most people know, I think based on your book, Pontypool
Yeah.
Changes Everything, right?
Yeah.
And the book was just released again. So you told me some great quote you got the other day about the book.
Oh no. Well, you know, you get good reviews, you get
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, no, there's some people who like the book. You know, it's one of those things where some people really like. Really similar to the film, probably, where you know, some people, because it's, you know, you want to use a word like unique or original, or it's its own, it's on its own terms.
Right.
So you know, it doesn't easily sort of fit up into whatever else is out there.
Right.
So it's going to meet resistance, and there's going to be people who are downright not going to like it for a bunch of reasons. But there are going to be those people who are like, just think they discovered the greatest thing in the world, which is the way I've always.
Now you had an
digested
interesting
culture.
and you had an interesting, quite inspiring afterword in your book when the book was republished. You talked about the writing of the book, and maybe could you just talk about that, about the act of writing that book? Remember that line that you were saying? That
no,
it was
I
like
don't.
writing that book was like an excuse.
Oh,
for a book?
it was
What
holding a place in case I ever did actually write a book. So it was, you know, I figured I needed about 200 pages, so I would have to fill those 200 pages to hold a place in case I ever write a book. And I still do that, actually, which is, you know, instead of the book you think people expect you to write, you write this other thing.
Right.
That holds the space in the world and keeps it safe or guarded by
Right.
a series of words you've stuck in there.
So once you throw that expectation off of what a book is supposed to be, that must give you a lot of
Well, then
liberty.
you're, yeah, then you're,
freedom,
you know,
right?
then you're quite comfortable falling flat on your face because you don't actually expect it to be witnessed. Which, and that to me has always been a kind of thing that I always do that. Just, I'm not crazy. This may sound sort of weird, but I'm not crazy about having people actually read the book.
Right.
Because that's not what it was for. And some people really complain, what the heck, this is not a book, this is it's a bit of a roller coaster, really.
Yeah.
With,
do you read the book yourself?
No.
When you finish writing it?
sections of it.
Right.
And well, yeah, you do, whatever revision work you're going to do. And I wrote that book very, very quickly.
Yeah.
In fact, it was, I just published, or had got a contract for the first book, which was Hell Mouths of Beauty, and they said, well, let's make it a 2-book deal. And I said, okay, when do I have to write another book, right? And I said, can you write it by the spring? And this was late winter. And I'm like, sure, I can do that. And then that was when we were driving back from Beauty, and my wife Rachel and I, we looked up and saw the sign Pontypool, and I said, all right, Pontypool will be the next book. And got home, went brrr, 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 wrote it very quickly. One of those things you do quickly, and you look back and you go, I'm going to do that again, and you can't, or you can't replicate whatever it is that made you do the thing you did and how you did it. You can't redo it. But yeah, and there is.
And how, in a quick, what are some of the, say, chunks in the book or whatever? Because the book is, you call it, and sometimes you call it an autobiography of a zombie.
Or an autobiography of a world that is populated by zombies, and autobiographical on some level,
right,
for myself personally, because it does break down into autobiographical patch in the middle that is supposed to cure the rest of the book of its problems,
right? Because
it's so hell bent on making shit up for better or worse, and then it becomes this kind of hard autobiographical. Right at the center, to kind of chase down where it was that this problem I was having that was forcing me to write like this, where was it originally? And it was originally, a teenager living on the streets in East Van, and becoming very disconnected from nobody knowing where I was, and really just sort of a wandering person down there. And that's where I found the source of it. And it was a period of my life when I was profoundly unable to communicate, just in a real fundamental way, unable to talk to people. And and it just felt that there was this, which made me wonder, where am I, in a very primitive way.
So you were channeling your own state at the time, and zombie movies, and French semiotics that you studied in university? Yeah, that sort of stuff came later. But mostly, it's, people referring to this film often talk about the kind of semiotic material in it. And there's some stuff in there that's constructed based on sort of some of its very fundamental semiotics, and some of it maybe more sophisticated, maybe not, maybe foolish. But or they talk about Laurie Anderson and William Burroughs, which absolutely wasn't on my mind. Yeah. At all. Yeah. Aware of it, but that's a completely different construct. That's languages of virus that comes from outer space, or these are completely different. I guess when people hear the word language and virus somewhere in the same paragraph, they assume that that's what you're talking about, but it wasn't. The thing that was mostly informing me at the time, I really just wanted to have a freaking B movie. Yeah. In a book. Yeah. that was just felt like that explained my world to me. Right, which is quite a rare thing for the can-lit I guess, kind of novel. Yeah. Okay, so that sort of catches us up. I want to get to sort of Pontypool 2 and 3 for the people that are actually sitting and listening to this. So the book came out, and your awesome editor, Michael Holmes, kind of turned me on to the book and to you, and you said, yeah, let's write a movie. So we started working on an adaptation of the book. Now the book, for the people that don't know, it is a kind of it's kind of a collage in a certain sort of way. It's kind of collagey. There's like in one way you could look at it as almost separate short stories, but it's all connected
Yeah,
a little bit. Maybe
Yeah,
they're not formally
yeah.
disconnected.
Yeah, or it's more like, I think of it as more like wandering around in a kind of an amusement park and,
Yeah,
walking into different environments.
Yeah, but clearly it wasn't the easiest book to adapt to. Like, it wasn't one
No.
quick story
Yeah.
to kind of go, oh, there
Yeah.
we go. There's
Yeah.
it's The Shining, or it's the, it's
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
So, and it was your first screenplay, and so we set out to work and worked for a long time, finding it, and went through lots of people, and eventually, to make a long story short, we got the opportunity to make a radio play,
Yeah.
and so we ended up shooting this movie that you've just watched, or are sort of watching parallel to us talking, watching Pontypool 1.
It just said "wanna hump on air."
Yeah.
No, I like that.
That's good.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we should remind people that the movie is playing. The actresses are walking.
Oh, I'm gonna tell
along.
you. There's something about this that's just real quick, interesting. The Lorelei Andromeda, Georgie Riley. She had like a not an easy job. And remember, we were sort of designing the way the zombies fall apart, or the way
Right.
they, which everybody gets all hung up on, right? When these kinds of things, because there needs to be a set of rules, there need to be phases that are identifiable and repeatable and reliable, so that you know when something is scary or not. You know what I mean? So and people are obsessed with that. Little do they know that once you certify that, people groan. I mean, people are going to groan anyway. But
Once you explain
once
it,
you
or
explain, once you explain it,
because nothing really makes any sense anyway. Right?
no, and a virus is notoriously inconsistent in how it behaves, or how it's contracted, or what's you know what I mean? So
Right.
we're truer to the nature of a virus in that it has these inconsistencies and has these, why does Grant not get it when he,
Right.
well, does it, why doesn't everybody in the world have swine flu? Is your next question, right? They don't.
Well, this was part of the challenge when we were writing and trying to sell the first adaptation, was because people expected zombie rules from the zombie genre, or
Yeah.
they expected certain
Yeah.
rules of how things
Yeah.
would go.
Well, we talked about, we wanted to stop before all of that stuff
Got explained.
got explained and make it impossible to know.
Right.
And then later it shifts and becomes this other creature towards the end.
Right,
But Georgie here, Georgina Riley, her big problem was she came chasing after me like, she had an acting coach helping her out with it. She's just, okay, so there's this babbling that she does, right?
Yeah.
Well, what do? You just babble? Remember we had the
Yeah.
people doing their auditions, and it was like, well, what do you do when you've got a paragraph of nonsense?
Yeah.
Just, do you spit? Do you sweat? Do you mumble? What do you do? And no, especially in the case of Georgia, she was great about this and very smart about it. She wanted to know what it meant
Yeah.
to the character, and
Yeah.
which is absolutely the right question, because she had to say, there was sort of three places she had to be. One was the thing she meant to say.
Yeah.
One was the thing she actually said, and the third was the way she reacts to the
Right.
thing she said,
Right.
trying to correct it. And so I wrote for her, like in her, is Mazzy missing, la 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 la, all that stuff. I wrote her a second set of dialogue that was what she was actually trying to say. So she had to say the missing Mazzy as if she was saying something else, and then by the end of it realized she couldn't say what she originally had to say, and had better stop. So that great hand clap.
Right, which is nice because it's emotional, and she's conscious of the fact that
yeah.
she's got something's wrong. Something
Yeah.
is so there's not this sort of switch on of like, now I'm a monster and I'm just
That's
babbling,
right. Yeah,
babbling
yeah,
and
yeah.
freakazoid.
Yeah, because that was just awful. Gotta save that for later.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like these creatures because they are quite emotional. I think that's
Yeah.
was one of the attractive things that we just touch on it a little bit in this film.
Yeah,
Through
much more of it in
Georgina's character,
Pawnee 2.
right? Pawnee 2 and Pawnee 3. I mean, we had meetings with some of the extras. There's a lot, but some scenes that were kind of cut down or cut out in this movie, where we see a lot more of the conversationalists. But maybe you can kind of go over the rules for, say, we were in a meeting with the extras. What would you say to them in terms of how to be a Pontypool zombie, or AKA conversationalist?
Well, it depends. I mean, there's the Georgina one, which is the onset of the disease,
Right.
which is the first, like when she mentions the Afghanistan line and that kind of thing, where it's that moment when you say something that's kind of inappropriate and something you can't really explain to the person you're talking to what you meant. So it's just this kind of awkwardness that is a fairly commonly experienced thing, like, everybody's gone through it where you've said something, it's fallen out of your mouth, and it's just been the most ridiculous thing, and you're not sure why you said it, and it's just because you're nervous or because of some pressure, blah, blah, blah. So that comes out of that kind of common experience, and then becomes the real inability to return to speaking, and the compulsion to talk your way back there, to try and find the way. And you're looking for, what you're really trying to do is explain to that person that you're trying to talk, which is like destroyed phatic communication. Once you have to tell somebody that you're trying to talk, you've destabilized all the sort of normal phatic connections.
Yeah.
And that becomes more aggressive and more aggressive and more aggressive as the disease comes on. And then you have the experience of rage that comes out of that, and panic and fear. And then as more of the person's personality sort of seizes up, and these are all kind of immune system attempts to save the brain or whatever, you know what I mean, by shutting things down and by closing off certain areas that are malfunctioning. And then the person becomes no longer sort of real in the way that you'd think of it. Their personality is just this kind of like very primitive part of them that's trying to live, and it's also living on there's all kinds of primal misunderstandings. One of the final misunderstandings is that the final act of communication or of desperate flight is to dive into a well person's mouth and enter them that way, and but it happens literally. So they literally rip into the throat and upper body of a person.
Are we going to see that in Pontypool too?
Oh, I'm afraid so. I think that's going to happen. And then they are suicided in the choking and drowning on the blood in the upper torso of the person they've just killed.
Just for there's Tony.
Oh no, jeez! Oh,
he's our
dear
Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh dear.
So just thought I'd point that out.
Yeah. Rex Reed didn't like that.
No, huh?
No, he didn't like that. He didn't like that at all.
Because he probably.
It was no Judy. Oh, and there's the fabulous
Judy at Carnegie Hall.
There's the fabulous, and the funny thing is, in Turkey, this played to enormous laughs.
Right.
Apparently.
Yeah.
The Turkish translator told me this, that because of the lines of the thing at the bottom, I think that sort of like missed. It just looked as this kind of goofy Scooby-Doo musical interlude.
Yeah.
Which it probably is.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It's good. I'm glad the Turks are embracing Pontypool.
Oh, yeah. Because I actually had somebody from some magazine in Canada go, "Whoa, buddy, that's, you're crossing the line there, man, with Osama bin Laden." And, they got blackface on, don't they? It's none of it's good.
Yeah.
But apparently that played very, very well in Turkey.
Yeah.
As biting stuff, right? Anyway,
good.
Yeah.
So we're approaching Pontypool 2. So those are kind of you have the emotional conversationalists who are kind of a little different than the foot dragon, zombies.
They should be,
movie,
yes.
Right?
They're
more emotional, and they're kind of they can be enraged, they can be whimpering, they can be
right up to the last minute. All they're trying to do is tell you is they're screaming for help.
Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah.
And they're an emotional place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's good. So it's kind of a slightly, new twist on the zombies.
That's your job, right? When you're writing a zombie movie. We've been like dancing around this forever. It's time to fess up, pal. It's a freaking zombie movie, man.
Yeah.
It's a zombie. We were always going to make a zombie movie.
Well, yeah, but they're cousins of zombies, I guess.
Cousins
right?
of zombies. But you know what? They're all cousins now.
Right.
They're all cousins now.
Right.
28 Days Later, that's a cousin.
Yeah. Like a Jennifer Aniston movie, kind of like a zombie movie.
Zombie Stripper is the closest thing to...
Is that a movie?
Yeah, with Jennifer Jameson, porn star.
Zombie Stripper.
Zombie Stripper. Are you writing it down?
Okay, so here we go into Pontypool 2. I thought we could have this little script meeting. So we have to get into the whole radio play and stuff on this, right?
What's that?
We don't have to get into the whole radio play on this,
No.
on the Pontypool one.
No. What do you
Okay.
mean? No.
No, just to kind of explain how it came. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's jump into two. So I've got the two treatments here. They're looking great, Tony. And I know that the second is pretty much written, and the third is treatment. For those
writing it
people
now.
that don't know the lingo, treatment is like a 25-page sort of short story of the movie, right, written out in prose.
Yeah.
So this is what we've got here. And it used to be one script, and we've split it into two.
Yeah.
I think that's good, so we have the little trilogy, right?
Yeah. Well, people used to complain that the Pontypool was two films.
Too much, right?
Two films, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it does that big jump shift in the.
Right,
Yeah.
in the middle or the
In the
end.
middle,
Yeah. So maybe I'll just sort of set it up. We can talk about it a little bit. I got a
Yeah.
couple of questions for you.
Uh-oh.
So as Tony was saying, it is an equal, I guess, not a sequel or prequel. It occurs on the same day as this
Yeah.
Grant Mazzy in the radio station, but we're out in the town and we're with the character. Our main character in Pontypool 2 is not Grant Mazzy and Sidney Breyer and Georgina. They're kind of background. We hear them on the radio, which is kind of cool, right? Maybe we'd see Grant in a diner or Georgina getting a hamburger crossing through, but not a main player, right?
Yes. Yeah, some of these characters, the Pontypool players, of course, will be featured quite largely, stomping through the snow on their way to the radio station.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You got another.
So I got
paycheck.
another paycheck
Yeah.
out of that.
So our main character is a character, Les Reardon, who has been who has left the city and come up to house at a farm at the edge of Pontypool
Yeah.
for the winter. He's kind of had a hard time of it, and he's there to sort of to recover. Right? He's had some NA or AA kind of thing going.
Bad experience, yeah. Bad experience with NA.
Right,
It's
and
not been the
so
greatest thing.
so his somebody that he's met there, who lives in at the edge of Pontypool, will Mary. What are we calling her? Roseland.
Mary Roseland, yeah.
Mary Roseland, yeah. Mary Roseland makes the call, invites him up. So as
Yeah.
the movie begins, it's his first morning there, and the family is leaving, and he says goodbye.
Clutters.
The Clutter family.
Clutter
which
family. Uh-oh.
it's a nice little reference.
Some people
to,
aren't. Well, the other funny reference in there is Bob Roseland.
Right.
Bob Roseland was Ted Bundy's, when he was pretended to be a cop.
Okay.
He called himself Constable Bob Roseland.
And this is our character. He's a main character in Pontypool too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob
Yeah.
Roseland.
Bob Roseland, yeah.
And so the Roselands live across the street. Bob Roseland, the Ontario provincial police officer, and his lovely wife Mary, and their two kids Julie and Jimmy.
That's right.
Right? And Mary kind of has the hots for Les a little bit. It's a little bit of Postman Always Rings Twice
A little cougarish.
kind of thing.
A
Right?
little cougarish.
Well, it depends who plays Les and who plays Mary.
That's
I mean, it
right.
could
But,
be
you know, it could play as a cougarish thing, or it could be as a Postman Rings Twice type of thing.
Right, right. It always
Yeah.
depends on, who's going to play. At one point, Les Reardon, we thought maybe as a woman, but I think we're back.
We're back. It's not Leslie anymore. It's
No.
Les. Yeah.
So as the day begins, he's trying to just keep it together in his farmhouse. It's winter. They have a little Postman Always Rings Twice action.
Yeah.
Right.
Which throws him quite. She's sort of like would be like his sponsor who
Right.
got in this gig
Right.
to get him out of the city. The what they call the geographical cure to get him out of the city, away from bad influences and his bad life and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But really, she doesn't realize this until she gets him up there.
Yeah.
That he's one hot, desperate muffin sitting over there, and so she goes over for a bite.
Yeah.
One day, right?
Yeah.
And it freaks him out, and because he's sort of in a vulnerable, crazy place, it's all hot and
Yeah.
crazy.
And Bob the cop is a little radar's up. He doesn't know for sure what's going on. But
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
Doesn't like it. And doesn't like Les, right?
No. I mean, you very much have a kind of, too, a sense of like, okay, the Clutter family is a much respected and well-known family, that goes way back in Pontypool.
Yeah.
And who's this young, kind of badass-looking guy.
Yeah.
Who's sitting there while Mary's come in and giving her stamp of approval. Well, really? Starts the talking, right? This is the
Oh, yeah. So
rumor mill, right?
Yeah, and they spend a bit of time in town, and the townspeople are kind of aware of this little thing. There's a diner in the town, which comes to play a little later.
Yeah.
And Bob pays a visit one morning to Les.
Find the scene. Let's read the scene. I like that scene.
So read the scene? Okay.
Do we have that here?
Yeah. Hold on a second. Okay.
Yeah,
so-
Bob is playing the, Bob is, at this point, has been sort of just scouting out, and old Les, he's like, all of a sudden he's in a farmhouse, he's let the, oh yeah, the other really freaky thing is he wakes up, Les wakes up at the Clutter farm the day they're leaving, so they leave him a list of to-do things, right, like, fix the screen door, the tap, it's going to be out there all winter, so here's a couple of things to do, and they're throwing the kids in the van, and Dougie Clutter leans over to Les Reardon and says, you wouldn't mind I don't want that dog hair gum spring. And I was like, what the fuck? He instructs him as a last kind of an afterthought that he's got to kill the family dog.
Yeah.
While they're away.
Yeah.
Something he does not want to do because he bonds very quickly with Ruth. I think it's Ruth, the dog.
With the dog.
And
okay, so why don't I'll just read the little scene here, right? So Bob Roseland is in his cruiser moving slowly through the
we don't
street.
have the scene. We just got the.
Yeah, I don't have the actual. I just got the prose. This is just the.
Well, let's make it up. Let's make it up then. We don't need that. Okay, you come in. You're Bob Roseland.
So let's.
He hits the door. He hits the door. Boom! I'm trying to fix the door. I got some nails in my mouth. Boom! The door hits my mouth. And it's
Shit, Les, you're bleeding.
Oh, fuck. I got nails in my
Here,
mouth. It just
here.
caught me in the cheek.
Here, let me put something on that here. Yeah,
Some water.
here's some water. Here's a drink of water.
So okay, maybe.
So, you seen any vagrants around here, Les?
no, vagrant. You can't talk because you got.
Yeah. If I ran your name through, I wouldn't get any surprises, would I, Les?
no. Fuck off.
All right. Well, I just got some reports of some vagrants, some naked guy standing in the woods. This is not the exact
No,
dialogue.
it's not getting my. It's not anyway. So then he goes out after this kind of like exchange between those two, where he's teasing Les while he's standing there bleeding, and then convinces him to go outside to shove snow in his mouth.
Yeah.
Right. So
He walks down the driveway. Ruth
Les
the dog is running around.
Ruth the dog is running around. Les has got a mouthful of bloody snow drooling down his face, all this pasty, white, yucky, bloody stuff. And then Les walks down to the end of the driveway, turns around.
Bob walks out, and he says, let me help you out with this. And he takes his gun out and blows the dog.
Blows the dog's head off.
Yeah. And then Bob gives him a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. And from that moment on, that's like the albatross, getting shot. That's the moment where everything will spiral out of control.
Yeah, and very soon after that, they get a visit from the shirtless man.
The shirtless man, bald guy who just... And this was one of the sort of interesting things we're playing with, is that because this goes back to the idea of the 6-inch box, right? Which we're not abandoning.
Right.
Because it's still going to be about claustrophobia and boredom and the kind of bizarre sexual energy that comes out of boredom and and you know what I mean? So those are weird stuff. So the energy in it is pretty bizarre. And then, what am I talking about? What's that? Oh yeah, so the frame, we talked about this, the frame, which is just...
Of the shirtless man.
Of the shirtless man. Well, Les has, at this point, we're leaping way ahead, but Les has burned the Clutter house down.
Right. Well, he got upset about the dog, and he started drinking again. And
he
shot a bow and arrow at Bob Roseland's house.
And in his fit of drunkenness and craziness, he believes he's fallen in love with Mary.
Across the street. Yeah.
Across the street. Who I think we've changed her name to Helen.
Yes, that's true.
That's
Helen
true.
Roseland.
It's Helen Roseland.
Yeah.
And so he sprayed paints Helen's name on the side of the Clutter house. And then he's laying in the snow and he sees the spray paint and he sticks a lighter to it and he's covered in red paint and he accidentally or drunkenly sets the veranda on fire. So, a series of things happen and Bob Roseland pulls up in his cruiser the next day and sees the Clutter house is half burnt down with his wife's name spray painted across the front of it. And Les with Les is standing there trying to explain. He can't.
Yeah.
So Bob Roseland's got his gun out. He's
going to arrest him.
He's going to arrest him or kill him.
Yeah.
And then while they're sort of trying to sort this through, the frame is stable, and we pull back just a tiny little bit, and we see this guy with no shirt is actually just standing there staring at him. What? So the deal with this guy. who eventually pulls off his head and throws it at the cruiser.
He what?
He does that, yeah. So anyway, then all hell breaks loose. I don't know. I don't know if we should do. We don't think we should give away the farm, though.
No, we won't take it to a thing. But then, then all hell breaks loose and it becomes quite rocking, right?
Quite rocking.
So the guy pulls his head off and throws it at them, and then they get a call. Helen is downtown
in trouble in
Pontypool
downtown.
because Cyril, the hardware store guy, has gone berserk in the town.
Yeah,
right?
and we have lots of sort of...
I still like kiss and fuck.
Kiss and fuck.
Right, that was his sort of thing.
That was his thing, yeah. But and all the time people are listening to this broadcast, so we have, Les is a bit of a fan of Grant Madsey.
Right.
From his old city days, right?
Right.
Grant knows him from when.
Right.
I mean, Les knows him from when he was a DJ in the city.
Yeah.
And so this is one of his sort of voices he connects with.
Yeah. So it becomes they rescue Helen from downtown. Things are getting out of hand. The mail truck woman is on the road. We say this quite casually because we've been working on this for many years, but and then it kind of just ramps up from there, pretty much.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Then things spiral out of control, and you've got scenes with the baby that don't speak French.
Yeah,
and then,
the guards, right?
Yeah, the guards are worried about the baby passing it on, and
I still miss the scene where they, I guess it was the shirtless man's head. And Les sticks it on a stake, and later finds little Jimmy licking the entrails of the head.
Yeah, that's not in this script right now. No. But later on in Ponty 3, there's Ponty 3, which is a kind of S&M Hotel Britannica, Oh Lucky Man kind of freak show, right?
Right.
Which is perhaps the most kind of satirical of all three films.
And thinking that maybe there's been a scene in it that has appeared in many times.
Jesus Christ.
And we call it the Milky Trees scene, which I think is a fantastic scene.
You do, eh?
Yeah, I think it's great.
I know, you've been bugging me with this for like 12 freaking years.
Well,
Bruce calls me up every once in a while and he goes, I need something that's just going to be for the trailer maybe. It's just something spectacular, it's just like visual thing with the, from The Shining with the blood in the elevator, something like that. So write me up 10 or 12 of those. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I put a little Busby Berkeley dance scene down, a little this, a little that, a little hoo-to-hoo.
And then Busby Berkeley may stay at
Busby
the
Berkeley
end, right?
is staying in. Yes, the Busby Berkeley's still in there. But then you had this Milky Tree thing, which I thought was just going to be like not even a thing. And then every time I send Bruce a script and it comes back, that's at the beginning of the film again.
Well, I think that it would be great to open Pawnee 3 with the Milky Trees, right? Because let me just tell the scene so people can understand. And so let's say 2, from the point we left on describing it, it kind of ramps up into quite a, action, bloodthirsty, festy, fun action thing. Pawnee 2, right?
Pawnee 2, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way it winds up.
Well, kind of, yeah. It kind of takes it to that kind of, what would you say it takes it?
Extraordinarily violent.
Right.
Extraordinarily violent. The last half an hour is unbearably violent.
So we leave people satisfied and satiated, I suppose, and there's a little bit of a, people clearly, we're going to ideally shoot these 2 movies at the same time, so there'll be a 3, whatever 2 does, Yeah. So 3 is a very different, same character. So say 3 opens with our guy Les. He's racing along a kind of a could be a windy mountain road in Tuscany, in a convertible sports car. He's just racing along, and we haven't decided if there's somebody with him or not. I think there was at one point. I think Mary or somebody was with him.
A bit of Isadora Duncan kind of.
Yeah. Anyway, he's racing along, and it's very kind of spectacular, and it's fast, and it's a sense of danger and intensity, and you're like, oh, that's our guy Les that we just left in the last bloodbath of a
now he's in Tuscany
third act, right? Now he's in Tuscany in a sports car, and as he roars around the latest hairpin turn, there's a tree growing out of the middle of the road, and he has no time to stop. He brakes, but he smashes head on into the tree. And there's a kind of a tense moment of is he dead? Is he's what's going on? And after a moment of silence, a big jet of milky fluid bursts out of the tree and sprays on the car. Maybe perhaps arousing him from his unconscious state.
Yeah.
And whether his passenger, we haven't decided if he has a passenger or not, but he kind of stumbles from the wreckage, and the gusher is still gushing out of this tree.
Filling the car.
Right? Sort of filling the car, and he stumbles off off the highway, or the 2-lane highway, into some kind of a forest. And the trees in the forest all start exploding as well with the gushing white fluid.
Yes.
Right? Like a kind of crisscrossing of,
Yeah.
imagine like, I guess it'd be like very creamy white fluid.
Oh, yeah.
Like shot from kind of firemen's hoses.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's a great visual.
Oh, it's stunning.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's kind of stumbling around, blood on his face, looking for
and
perhaps his passenger.
the white goo's landing on his
The
face
white
a little
goo.
bit. Yeah.
The white goo is rising from the ground, and he's so slowly he's being.
Oh, God, it's perilous. Yeah.
And he's up to his waist, and he's now, we see maybe from above, and less disappears, and then finally the treetops disappear into
And they
this
just
white milky
sway
fluid,
under
right?
the. Yes.
Until we're just a kind of a sea of just white.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the problem has always been, which.
But there's a good
clearly,
opening,
Okay, but clearly the problem has always been with that is, what the fuck is that all about? Well, why is he in Tuscany in a row? Okay,
Well, then you have the title of the movie, Pontypool Changes Everything.
Sushi bar.
And then boom, he wakes up. He's tied to a tree in northern Ontario. He's zombie springtime. So who knows? Maybe that's what zombies think about. Maybe that's just
Nobody knows. Nobody knows what you're right. Nobody knows what zombies think about. So that could very well be that the whiteout. It's kind of like paper whiteout, right?
It's like that typo
erasing
thing.
the
It's
world
like the typo,
with the whiteout.
right? We've got the typo in one. We need the whiteout for the third, right?
Erasing the world all over. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Have we?
So you're not convinced, are you?
Well, you know what? It's one of those things. Like I have been not convinced of that 1,000 times, and then
why I'm convinced. I don't know if maybe that's the place, but just the kind of the visceral action speed beauty of that sequence. I just think it's one of those. If it's done right, it could just be a kind of a stunning.
It could be very beautiful.
Tarkovsky-esque.
Oh dear.
We have to throw those Russians in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's good.
So, whether it's not in
Bit
one.
of Jenna Jameson too.
She can be in it. She can be she can be driving beside him in the sports car if whoever wants to be there. Maybe that's our,
She could take the bullet for him. Yeah.
The bullet from what?
The tree.
That's not a bullet. It's milky
that's
milky
right.
stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Is Jeff sitting over there? I don't think he's convinced either.
No. Anyway, but look at that.
Okay,
Look at that.
okay,
There's our outdoor. We're outside.
Yeah.
We're outside there, and that is brutally cold. Brutally cold. We had other things going on, didn't we? We had at one point we had a guy in a fish hut. Should we give that away?
Well, when it comes up.
It already has come up. Yeah.
We can get the fish hut man somewhere else. I think maybe. I think that's in 3. I think it was too early in 1.
That was part of our. Well, we should tell people what that was. In the part where Grant Mazzy doubles over,
he's in his booth still. It's just before this scene where he's.
The reason why he runs out here is because, and this is really interesting. I quite liked how this worked out because he was supposed to go, "What's really happening here? What's really happening here?" And he looks down at the floor. When he does this, you see him do that. Looks down at the floor, and we had shot a scene where there's a guy in a fish hut that is about 8 inches tall between his feet on the floor who comes out of it and looks up and goes, he says, you gotta get somebody over here. We got people with guns not fucking shooting at me, man. Take a target. Just some kind of guy, right? Just freaking out down there. And then Les is obviously blown away because he's hallucinating. And blah, blah, blah. We explained it to ourselves one way or another, as we do.
Yeah.
And then...
there you are.
Oh shit, that's me. That was the day we went over. That's Rick Applegate's sheep farm right there, just around the corner from where I live. These are all people from Stainer, actually, where I live. And anyway, so then and then he comes out and he's reeling from having seen this thing. And we had all of our, we had our meeting with our border guards, right? He said, is this, okay, we're not going outside. Where are we going when we go here, right? We're leaving his face and going to Wonderland.
Right.
Where are we going? What are that? And so we opted after a series of arguments about where the border and the frame is, that should not stay.
Right.
For a bunch of reasons.
Right.
One of them was
It's probably one of the more difficult like stay or go decisions. Of
Yeah.
this, 'cause
But the interesting thing about it is the way Stephen is reacting and pulling and twisting and tormented in that scene is sort of beautiful without it.
yeah.
Without knowing.
Yeah. Well, this was what Jeremy, the editor, was saying. He's opinionated and clear and honest, and it was one of those things that he was like, as much as I love the Fish Hut Man, I don't think you need it. And Stephen really liked it. Stephen McCaddy loved it, and I loved it. But it was just one of those things that was like, very on the edge and maybe too soon, because it sort of set up these other expectations that.
Well, and also, set up other expectations, and also you stop trusting at a crucial point. You stop trusting Stephen McCaddy's character.
Right.
You stop trusting him right away. Boom, and that's it. I mean, so then after that, you've got a bit of a, it's a bit of a circus. It's no longer a story.
Right.
Which we get to anyway, but you got to find your moment to do that.
Yeah, which is after the tail credits, and you have your sushi gangster hut.
Uh-oh. Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that.
No.
No, that's very important. Never talk about that.
Never talk about gangster sushi hut.
No. Yeah. I don't. I never talk about it. I was at a Q&A, somebody asked me a question about it once. What about that gangster hut thing back there? I don't talk about that. I actually got angry. I wasn't really angry, but anger was useful to shut him up. Anyway.
Okay, well, let's get on to... so anyway, Milky Trees. Do you think it's
trees? We just did 8 minutes on the Milky Trees.
I know, but I'm just saying, mine may not be the opening of 3, but somewhere in there, I think it's worth keeping on the plate.
I know this is where you're the boss and I'm not.
No, I'm not really the boss.
Well,
I mean,
you're the boss, because if I was the boss, I don't mind the Milky Trees.
Yeah.
I don't mind the Milky Trees.
No, I know you love it, but it's just finding, and this is your maturity as a writer, Tony. See here,
maturity as a writer. Okay, here's where we got a problem right now. What? Excuse me, with the who? No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just cold. I think freaking things are happening out there. Oh, what the heck is that? Whoa. Excuse me.
Okay, so 3. So
is that commentary? That's commentary.
What we just did?
Yeah.
That's good. That's kind of classic commentary.
Is it?
Yeah, people love it.
Gets
They'll probably rewind it. Just
How come that
again.
snow's not melting on his back?
It's Northern Ontario snow. That's why.
I had a car rental, right? That I used to bring to the lot every day, and they used that in a scene with a snow thing.
Is that scene?
No. I don't know what they used it for, but they covered it in that snow, and then it rained, and when that rain rains on that fake snow, it turns it into like
mush.
No, it dries up. It's like rock.
Oh, okay.
That is on the car. So I had like this rock-covered glazed car rental. That I don't know who ended up paying for it. I don't even want to know. That's
for coming down.
Jeff's hand just went up back there.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So 3. So we begin with less.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think we're giving away anything by. We don't give away the ending of 2. Anyway, so 3 begins. Les is now.
He's recovering from what he's been found. He's been found on a hillside in Ontario, where he's been spent the winter with a herd of afflicted. That some have survived and some have not. And what they've discovered is that. And now in number 3, we have a big picture.
Right.
And they got weather reports that are like things like. We've got a series of infected nouns that is passing over Sault Ste. Marie over the weekend. If you just avoid using the words we and you and just pronouns like that, you should be okay. If you do, be sure to yell very loudly for about 5 minutes, and that might, there's this kind of like what the weather reports are all about bad grammar sweeping through their area or infected words coming in off Newfoundland.
On the official news stations and weather stations.
Yeah. So the virus has retreated. Retreated and is mutating, but it's not as lethal anymore. There's now these little hiccups in mutated viruses that are more like a common cold type of thing. And the people who had the original disease, some of them are recovering.
Right.
Some of them are recovering.
Tony's phone. Why don't you grab that?
Hello? Hello? Yeah, it's me. Holmes, you know what? I'm busy right now. It's Holmes.
Editor.
It's Holmes.
That's
It's
right
the old
on.
editor.
Tell him what's
We're
going on.
doing the DVD commentary right now, so you're on it. Yeah. No, I did anyway, but now you're on the DVD commentary.
Let him say hi.
Say hi, just a second. Say hi. Hi. Okay. Okay, say bye. Anyway, so
That's cool. That's Holmes got.
that's Holmes. Yeah.
It's very, very good.
Yeah.
So okay, sorry, and the narration, commentary, setting the stage.
Setting the stage. So anyway, Les is amongst some of the surviving people on a hillside. They have a test that's very interesting. I don't really want to give it away. There's a test that they do to determine.
Right, but people are in bad shape.
People are in bad shape.
People are gnawing on.
Yeah, and then immediately the sort of aesthetic is completely. Again, here we go to sort of it's unique on its own terms and not entirely explicable.
Right. Well, so he's rounded up by the military soldiers, right?
Yeah, and they put them in because there's a shortage of things, and it's all sort of catch as catch can. What they've got in this particular group is S&M ball gags to prevent them from talking. So you've got a busload of these kind of sweaty, bloody freaks in the back of a van bouncing around in the potholes, right, with S&M ball gags on their mouths.
Right.
That they are then taken to a local school which has been refit or repurposed.
Like a public school.
Public school has been repurposed as a kind of holding place. So they're on a grid. They're in a gymnasium. Are assigned. It's a city. It becomes. It replicates. There's streets of mats that people live on. They live on with their ball gag and they lay on their sides and the place is sort of this weird militarized gym with hot, sexy nurses in stilettos that walk around. Why?
Yeah.
What?
It's a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we go from there and follow Les through his.
So he's been brought there because the idea is to society or the
there's
people
money.
running
Here's a
things.
kind
It's
of
like we're
Clockwork
going to
Orange sort of moment here.
Right.
Where,
It's like rehabilitation time.
Rehabilitation time.
So
there's a whole host of things here.
So like zombie rehab. So we're in the gym, and we got the sexy nurse. What are we calling her? Just the nurse?
I think so.
It's funny, I can't remember.
We had a name for her. Helen.
No, that's
No.
Yeah.
Mary. No.
Mary. There are a few characters that have come and gone in this. Anyway, so he's rehabilitated, and he is the nurse who becomes his foil, I guess, in this movie. Right. Her job is to put Les through a series of tests to determine if he can speak properly, if he was able to kind of rejoin society, and if he is clear of the virus, or is he in fact still dangerous. Mm-hmm. And certain people make it, certain people don't make it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and the whole thing is they're retraining people to use denotative language.
Right, and these tests are kind of, actually, in all the three movies, I've always found some of these scenes in this that are the most suspenseful, some of the weirdly suspenseful and frightening.
Yeah, because, well, and the other odd thing, too, that's the world has changed because the virus in its mutation has actually leapt and altered some things in, the real grid, the real world grid.
Right. And maybe explain what's changed for the nurse.
The nurse is now left-handed and was right-handed before. So some of these things are little small things, and some of them are large. And this is actually returning to sort of principles of the first one, in that you're with Les, and so you don't know how much is altered. You don't know if, which is the title, you don't know if everything is altered. And as it turns out, everything is. You find that out at the end.
What kind of things have been altered?
I'm trying to remember. I think dogs disappeared, and in fact, the word dog is no longer accessible to people.
Right.
And there's other sorts of, things that are just some small, like I said, the left hand to right hand.
Right.
There's a bizarre hypersexualizing of things that's just sort of going on, and very sort of, this is the S&M stuff that pops in the beginning just as a kind of, in an inexplicable way, but
Right.
later on becomes this kind of nightmare, erotic nightmare that sort of bubbles up in the hospital at night.
Right.
These weird things that go on. And then by the end you realize, or he realizes, because he runs into Helen at the hospital.
Right. Right.
And
Helen, who
Hel-
was in the
first
who
movie.
was Helen Roseland from the first movie, married to Bob Roseland.
Yes.
They had their Postman Rings Twice thing, and
Yeah.
he and she went through a lot of action and blood
Hello.
and thing
Yeah.
in the second movie. So he finds that she's one of the other inmates in the rehab.
Yeah, yeah, and they make a connection, or so he thinks. They make this connection. I'm not comfortable giving away too much, though, here.
No,
Because there's a
that's
whole-
enough to sort of set it up, I guess,
You
right?
give people a spoiler.
Right.
Spoiler. You don't want to do that. But anyway, he discovers, and confronts in this rather beautiful, painful, and completely nihilistic way everything that has changed. Do you remember the end there with who she really is?
Oh, right.
Yeah,
When
right.
he
Oh, look at there he is.
yeah, hold on. Oh yeah. Okay.
What?
So
It's
at the
in
very
the
end.
words.
So
What? What do we do? Words?
do you think we did a good job sort of explaining the?
No, but
Fun to come?
I don't think you could. I don't think you can, because a lot of it is, I mean, if somebody explained this, I don't know if you can. But the thing of it is it's, I think 2 and 3 are more perverse than 1 is.
Mm-hmm.
They're clearly more sort of satisfying on just the sort of level of genre checklist things, right? In that, if you really needed to see people ripped apart, by gum, we got it for you, right? And while staying true to the sort of stories of them, I don't want to give too much away of the stories. It's not
Right.
like, I think pitching a story to a potential investor or whatever is different than pitching a story to, or talking about a story to people who might want to see it one day.
Yeah, I don't think we gave anything away. Just sort of,
No. Oh.
there's lots there
Yeah.
yet to be discovered.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And do you think well, there was some talk like would Sidney Breyer and Grant Mazzy would they return in?
Yeah,
3?
they could be in 3. I've written some little moments for them, and possibly bigger or smaller, because, they do they survive 1? I think probably, maybe, but probably not. This is where we're at with this.
Well, Bob Rosen didn't survive, right? In
Bob Rosen?
or
Bob
is it-
Ro-
no, I'm Bob Roseland.
That's Bob Roseland.
No, he's Andy.
Oh, really?
Remember he meets Andy, I think? Is it
No,
Andy?
he
Who does
meets
meet in the
Bob-
hallway?
He meets Bob Roseland in the hallway with carrying a mop in the hospital, and
But he
he goes up
thinks
and he
he's
goes,
Andy.
and he thinks he's Andy.
Yeah,
And Les goes up and says, Bob Roseland, and he says, "Do you know Bob Roseland?" What? I thought you were Bob Roseland. So anyway, yeah. But Grant and Sidney do appear in number 3. I think the exact terms of that we haven't quite figured out yet, but.
Okay, well, just before we leave 2 and 3, give us a little bit of the hospital ambience. So when our boy Les is mopping up on one of his duties in Pontypool 3, what does he hear on the loudspeakers in this
Oh, in the
public school?
It's constantly being sort of pumped in all the way through. It's this background kind of noise. I mean, it reminds a little bit of THX, whatever, right? Or these
Yeah.
other kind of classic sci-fi, dystopia, institution films, right?
Yeah, like in 1984 kind of thing.
Yeah. But this is quite different, and it's this kind of soft institutional voice that says things like, and I don't have the script in front of me, so I don't remember things like, your mother is your father's wife. A house is where you live, and a house is on a street. And it's just this kind of mantra of very obvious denotative statements
Right.
Sort of training a person to not to be able to say things, right? And so there's this constant wave of, it's almost like the Muzak in the place, right? Which
Yeah.
is, you know, water water can be described as wet. You would not describe water as dry, because you would be talking about land. Or, you know, there's this kind of like, sound like riddles, but they're, you know, very obvious kind of things. Which is nice. I mean, it goes back to the sort of obits, right? The way
Right.
you read the obits, that sort of, there's an elegiac feeling that this is the world lost, and we're trying to regain it by stating that the world is not lost. And one of the sort of big words, the word that actually is what this is about home, about going home. Because where are you going to go when you've been rehabilitated? Presumably home, which Les doesn't have, but they give him anyway, which turns out to be, you know, a corrupt denotation, or a dangerous denotation, or a lie, or something.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. What? What is... Whoa! You know, she was freaked out, that poor girl.
Georgina?
Well, at the model of her that laid around on the floor for days.
Well, it was
Covered in blood.
strange, right?
Yeah, that'd be pretty weird, because it looked exactly like her. Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Bang, bang, bang. Ooh, I don't think this is good. This is not turning out very well. Uh-oh.
Something strange is happening to them.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't seen this before.
Mm-hmm. We'll stop for the best part of the film now. Oh my God. Look at her. Look at that. Oh, the card she gave me. It was funny because, you know what, we had to like, oh, I gotta see this. Oh, milky trees, eat your heart out. What's he even thinking now? There goes, come on. Get a little dialogue to get out there. There I go. And then it's gonna keep it real, girl. Keep it real. Oh. Oh my. Oh yeah. What are you gonna do? But you know, the funny thing is, we're on set. We had this like, what's she doing? She pukes, eh? What? we had this. Whoa! Look at the face on him now. Holy crap! But we had this this thing on set, and we had to talk about this. We talked about this early, in the middle, late, and da-da-da, all the way through. And it was a very serious thing for us. This is a scary movie, not a funny movie.
Yeah.
And the thing of that is, I mean, what's that? What are you doing when you're making really what is a comedy, really, in some ways? You know?
Yeah.
What are you doing when you're saying that? What are you trying to do when you say, we told everybody on the set, all of the actors, everybody,
Put it on the call sheet?
put on the call sheet, this is scary, not funny. Do not try to make us laugh.
Then it becomes funnier.
It becomes funnier.
Yeah.
And also you create that kind of great B-movie atmosphere that's almost lost now because
People are so aware. And
people are so aware, and films are so aware, and there's so much irony and so much kind of deliberate parody. But you've got to play it for keeps if you want to really, really resurrect that great B-movie atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's got to be played for keeps. You know, even the most ridiculous thing especially the most ridiculous things you're doing. And it was funny because we were watching on the monitor, me and you, because we were the military about laughing.
Right.
It's not funny.
Yeah.
You know, don't play it. Keep laughing. And then you and I are sitting there watching the monitor, and it was I don't know what it was, and then something was going on, and then I just sort of started cracking up, and then you lost your shit right there, right? You were just like cracking up, and I'm laughing, and then people were looking around going, what's, you know, and I had to run out of the room, and then somebody, I can't remember who it was, came after me and says, "What's wrong, man? What's wrong?" I said, "I thought this was supposed to be scary," because I think it was a particularly scary moment.
Right.
How can we laugh? I felt kind of awful about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you play it for keeps.
Maybe we should have told Rex Reed that.
Until Rex read that. Well, you know, I mean, that's the thing is you don't. I think that's how you get access to the other dimensions. You know, other than just it wasn't. These weren't jokes. Clearly,
Yeah.
they were. The ridiculousness of it. You want some people to get that, and some people not to. You want you want to create kind of a mysterious dimensions to it, enigmas in there somehow.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is play everybody at the top of their realism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sidney Breyer's alive. Holy shit. We had some serious discussions about that, man. Oh, Lord help us. Lord help us. That's good. Turn it up, turn it up. We had big, see that shot right there, which is the most 5-cent shot you could possibly ask for, right?
The speaker on
the
the
speaker on the wall. The speaker on the wall. Remember hours of can't show the speaker on the wall. Can't show the speaker on the wall. No, we can't show the speaker on the wall because then it means it's happening.
Yeah.
That's the big, it's happening. So we want how sealed off do you want something kind of interesting and something I'm aware of doing it, and something that's I'm always using in my fiction too, is the idea of the spirit of this idea, which is that it is absolutely, without question, what is happening now. And it may not necessarily be so.
Sorry, say that again.
It is absolutely and without question what is happening now.
What is?
What is happening now?
Right.
What is happening now is without question what is happening now.
Okay.
And it may not necessarily be
Right.
and trying to find the spirit of that, which is,
Right.
I think, what we, all of the sort of checks and balances running along this.
Right.
If we had it's too much, it is not necessarily so, then it clearly, you know what I mean?
Right, because
so,
you could interpret this as this is about a guy going
so
nuts and
then
killing
what do
everybody
we do?
at
So
work,
then what
right?
do we do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then what are you doing to us? And we had that discussion too. It's and in fact, we even had scripts, right, where it was is this all in Les's head? Or in this case, it would be Grant's head. And is that such a bad thing?
Right.
Does your audience go, oh, really? It's the Jacob's Ladder conundrum, right? Which is the first half of that film is so just terrifying. And it may be in his head, but you kind of, you're looking through portals that this is, that this, it's not. You have evidence. You have little bits of evidence. And then once we break into the kind of explanation period, it just is reduced to nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's nowhere near as frightening or
Yeah, it's always the
electrifying or
most
nightmare.
disappointing parts in
It's a
horror
challenge,
movies
right?
and sci-fi movies when it's the big
Yeah.
You kind of look forward to the explanation, but then you're like, oh, is that all?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, and we've caught some grief for our run at it, but and you don't want to really bail out of it, calling it parody or satire too easily, even though there is that.
No, there's a hunger and appetite for closure and explanation, right? Or
Yeah,
at least some explanation. It might be wrong or
well, and also, I
misguided
mean, one of the things we always sort of were thinking was that the explanation, as it comes, as they grab it, is never really reliable.
Right.
And they become less reliable as characters as we get towards the end, and the film gets less reliable. And we were aware of that, but also trying to keep. Whoa! Dude! I'm gonna ping.
That's always good, huh?
Oh yeah,
That worked out well.
yeah, not bad. There he is, smiling. How's in the morning?
Rex Reed probably enjoyed that part a lot.
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only thing that worked. The only thing that worked for him. Everything else was what the heck?
Yeah.
And I remember when we were shooting and you introduced me to Hannah Fleming, who plays the dear Farage,
Yeah.
who they have to kick her to death there on the floor. And she's the sweetest little 14 or 15-year-old girl you'd ever want to meet.
Yeah.
Sort of shy, smiling, beautiful, and lovely young lady.
Yeah.
And I'm introduced to her, and I've never had the experience in my life of this, and realized the moment I met her that we were going to kick this poor girl to death. And I remember thinking, somebody has to pay. You know what I mean? Because you write these things or you put these things in there and you're like, no, that's because it belongs there. That's the way things work in film. You got to get that thing. That we need the death and we need the time that's going to work for that. And you kind of meet it in the situation. You go, oh, hang on a second. This is more significant and more awful, possibly more awful than you're making it out to be.
Yeah.
And so then we came, do you remember this? And then that's when we sort of came up with Sydney's just spirals into that sort
Right,
of
she
drinking.
carries
and-
that. Well, she carries
she
that
carries
regret, right?
that moment
Yeah.
she and she writes her great regret on the wall.
Yeah.
And because this is her,
Yeah.
being dragged to hell.
Yeah, which is nice is to have consequence because, something as simple as kicking some little kid to death, it's kind of nasty business.
Well, yeah,
And you don't show a lot. And in fact, we show nothing.
we show
really.
nothing. But
it's still-
yeah,
Yeah.
and you have to sort of she is you want to keep these people.
Yeah, it's
real.
like that old thing, you can blow people's heads off and chew their arms off, and, but you kick a puppy or something, and
Yeah.
you're gonna have everybody
Yeah.
crying and screaming.
But people say, oh, these guys, they shot this movie in like
5 seconds.
5 seconds with the budget of whatever. So that must have been awful. And how can you do things like that? But we were actually able to sort of, because we were doing it in sequence, it was, we were able to change sort of, that's a good example, right? We
yeah.
got there and realized, no, the size of this has to be different.
Yeah.
The size of her reaction has to be different. And
Yeah.
the way that it manifests itself has to be.
Yeah, and that was Lisa's contribution.
Yeah.
I mean, they really kind of thought through, and probably the advantage of shooting in sequence, we could carry things over,
Yeah.
build on it rather than.
Yeah, what you felt was happening in that
Yeah.
scene, you could answer it later on.
Yeah.
And whether you make the right choices or not, you don't know. But and there's what the heck? He's out of there. He's out of there. Huh? I love that. Bonk, bonk, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy jeez.
They enjoyed themselves, Stephen and Lisa.
They had a great time, and they were
Georgina
fantastic and so
Hermance,
smart. They were so smart, and
Yeah.
we had a number of, it wasn't lengthy, but we had a number of really key meetings with them over their place and up in my place in Stainer and down in Toronto, and where we just sort of went over story. They contributed lots of sort of stuff.
Yeah, I
around.
think they came up with the whole idea of Mendez being sick, right? Or no? Didn't they like a reason? There was a whole
I
big
think
thing of
that-
why
yes,
do we leave?
yes,
Why do they leave the
yes,
the
a
booth?
fear of
And that
yeah.
kind of suspicion. So I thought that
yeah,
played really well.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, okay, and this is nice. I like finally getting to look at something.
we're kind of run out of stuff to say. Mrs. Tripp.
Mrs. Tripp, yeah, she was a character early on.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that poor guy. That's awful. That's awful.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I think you finish off like that. Oh, yeah,
Huh? Now you see, and this too. I mean, the whole sort of, you hope your audience is with you, right? When you get to a place like this, which is you're fairly remote, in a remote place compared to where you started, like psychologically and tone wise and logic wise and character logic. You've gone to a remote place, and you hope you've brought them there. But we were playing this as sort of. You had to play this as something that was really happening. That the word kill infects her. And then his discovery, or him coming logically through steps to believe that, whether that's
Yeah,
I mean
but
whether
that's-
that's true or not.
Right, but that's classic in the kind of B-movie thing, right?
Totally,
It's like,
totally,
okay,
totally.
the virus is hit
Yeah.
and blah, 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 and they discover the cure.
Yeah, yeah.
The critical
Had
junction
to
or
do
the
that, yeah.
accident and the
Yeah.
test tube falls over and
That's
it's like,
right.
oh my God.
Yeah, and you know, and films like I've always loved the kind of bizarre, compressed. Trying to figure out what's in front of you logic of something like Phantasm or you know, the great classic B movies from the 80s, the whole VHS revolution of films from there, where you know the logic has true to some extent or followable to some extent, but it's more Louis Buñuel than Scooby Doo. You know what I mean? Those sorts of films. And he's so you know, they're both fantastic at taking you there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and because it's a reach exceeding your grasp kind of scenario as far as the leap that they're getting us to. And it's madness
Mm-hmm. And a romance.
and a romance.
It's kind of a romantic movie.
It's
actually.
madness, yeah, yeah. Oh, I got a headache. Look at him. Holy.
Nigel healing. Yes.
Nigel healing. Yeah. There's the way I last. What did she do to her hand? Oh yeah, at one point we had she was turning into a fly.
Well, this
or
thing,
something.
from this scene to the end, we shot that in a day, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think from, God, or more. That was like the last day of shooting. It was just like, holy God. We had no more days after that to shoot. So.
Yeah. And that's when
and
you
the-
sent me off to Resurrect Sushi Bar on a Friday afternoon.
Right.
I scrambled and wrote it, sent it out to the various people who were wondering what the hell we were going to do with that at the end. And then I disappeared to Niagara Falls with my kids. And I get home Sunday night, and there's like all these emails and phone messages. What the fuck are you trying to do to this production? What is wrong with you? Call us right now. It's like, it's too late, man.
But all found its good spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I must say it's a treat to have, people like McCaddy and Lisa.
McCaddy and Lisa are
Georgina
just fantastic, yeah.
And Harant just
And the
stepping up, right?
The chemistry between these two is amazing because, he is a force of nature, and in this, I mean, he's really grabbing the corners of the sky to pull this performance up off the ground, and if you had another actor, let's say, whoever, across from him there. She'd have two choices. One would be to just roll back on her heels and duck.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or to come at him and try to compete
Yeah.
with that thing he's doing. But because Lisa and Steve know each other,
Yeah.
and
they've worked together before, and there's a comfort there. Right?
and she knows how to sort of duck and manipulate and seem to be one step ahead of, or what, you know what I mean, moving around the animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is chemically good. Oh dear. Jeremy just we're poignant here. Jeremy teared up when he saw this first time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's nice.
teared right up.
It is kind of it's a good screen kiss, I think. It's
Oh, yeah,
one of the classics.
Yeah.
Maybe not one of the classics, but
Kill his kiss,
it's
yeah.
it's a surprise. I
Think
think
of the
in the
job
movie,
he has to do
right?
here, old Steve McCaddy. How what he's got to sell in this scene is like
Well, both of
extraordinarily
them,
bizarre thing. Yeah, and her too. Yeah, it's impossible, and they include the impossibility of it. They include it in the performance, so that's. Yeah,
Well, I think
it's terrific.
involving them from the early stage was such a great thing, and just
Yeah.
becomes their movie as well as
Yeah.
as our movie.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And if it could, if it could always work that way, it'd be great. Rather
Yeah.
than, you meet 3 days before you go, and
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a great be outside with the crew, hanging out with the little craft truck there, and everybody be hanging
Craft
out.
talk. There was like
Crap, whatever it was.
yeah.
And then Stephen McCaddy come rolling around the corner with his cowboy boots on and his hat, and he'd have that walk, and everybody just sort of like put their backs to the wall and let him by. You know, he was intimidating looking and just so like, you know, because he's actually a really smart, friendly guy. But when he puts it on, man, he can put it on.
Well, the crew is like theater for the crew, you know, that every day they could watch it and see it, and they were won over very quickly, I think, and just impressed, I think, with you know, the level of their commitment, of the actors' commitment, and the fact that they were so kind of on it.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody from, you know, Fergie, you know.
Oh yeah.
Who was our, you know, key grip, and
Yeah.
other people that were just on the periphery.
Yeah. It was a
We're
gang.
kinda-
It was a gang.
You know, and I think that, you know, the actors, it's hard to know for sure, but the actors must feel that energy of the crew, kind of leaning into it, being a part of it, and not just,
Yeah.
you know, kind of believing in it, believing it into
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that mysterious, strange energy must, I don't know,
Do something.
hopefully, or it kind
Yeah.
of comes onto the screen, you know, or it,
Yeah, no, everybody was having fun. There's no doubt about it. Everybody was having fun. It was very entertaining. And there's some just crazy, unbelievable shit going on there. You know, just wild. Here we go. You
Yeah.
can't, Grant. You can't.
so we snuck in the shut up or die line here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
How could Rex
don't-
Reed
you
not
don't-
love this film?
I don't know. I think it was his job not to like the film, and I think he didn't like that job.
We really want to provide a genocide with elevator music? I don't know what I did up there.
But, you know, I mean,
Try. Because if I don't, what?
we're asking our audience to be somewhere, you know, that's not a familiar place.
No.
And so it's, you know, it's not accessible. It's just not accessible for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Now that French thing,
What?
he said terms of endearment and
Yeah, it requires an imagination, but it also requires a kind of suspension of disbelief that's not common. And it's a kind of, like, I always picture things, books too, and films. Your best experience is when you're there alone, and you know what I mean. And this is somehow outside of, you know, a group of people and everybody's talking it down. It disappears. But if you're by yourself and you just happen to be laying on the couch right now and you just watched this movie and, you know, maybe you got a bit of a cold or something and the Sanya-Tab's kicking in.
You're like,
Oh,
whoa.
too much cough syrup or something,
Yeah.
and you know, you're just like, it gets you there. I'd be jealous of that person.
Yeah.
That'd be a great, yeah, that'd be great. That's what you should do, is throw everybody out of the house, stock up on some Sanya-Tab, watch your movie.
it means sad.
This rant he has at the end.
Okay, can't be that.
But we had Wagner. Remember we were blaring Wagner?
Yeah.
It was from Tristan and
Tristan
Isolde.
and Isolde, yeah.
And that's what constructs this mood here. It was also, this is the end of the last 10 or 15 minutes
Sample is a cover.
is,
Sample is a cover.
for me, is the end of Dr. Faustus. That last speech in the Marlowe play.
Yeah.
It's a pretentious reference, but for me as a writer, that was one
Yeah.
just the idea of somebody trying to
What's Dr. Faustus doing? He's trying to conjure
recast the world by describing it differently.
Huh.
Change the dimensions of heaven and hell and the way it can access him by and it's just an example of a siege in a speech, of real danger in the words and having the words chasing you and hunting you, which was sort of one of the things
Yeah.
we were always trying to sort of that. And in the radio version of this, the CBC version of this is different. The ending is different, and it's much more literally him having to sort of hold certain words at bay by saying them differently, or by pushing them away, or by trying to figure out how they're trying to access him.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets this, and they both get this really quite wonderfully. The sense of absurd doom, that's sort of part elegy and sort of she gets the rising feeling, almost kind of, she's euphoric in the end, eh? That look of kind of happy misery or euphoric misery.
Just listen to me. I said listen to me.
I think everyone's dead.
You're just killing scared people. It's what you always do.
So we hope people enjoyed the movie, don't we, Bruce?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, if they're watching it for the second time with us talking,
Well, they gotta,
yeah,
I gotta be at least curious about it. But I'm quite proud of it. I'm proud of it.
yeah, I'm very proud of it.
Yeah,
It's beautiful too. It looks beautiful,
it does look good.
and it's kind of. I like, the fact that we just kind of hang back and we let the story and the actors do it. That there's a kind of a, I don't know, the design and the photography and the lighting and the direction. It's kind of, we didn't have to do a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we did a lot, but we didn't
Yeah.
need to announce
Well,
ourselves.
not a lot of things were
you know?
going wrong. I mean, with that,
Yeah, it was more like going back to like a 1940s style where you
Yeah.
did put the story up front and the characters up front.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
and you trusted them, and they trusted
Yeah,
you, and
yeah.
they paid you back for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It becomes their movie rather than a
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
swank around.
See, look at that beautiful face there. It's fantastic.
I hope this becomes a good Valentine's Day renter.
It'd be nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Rex is watching it right now. Hey, Rex, what's up, baby?
Yeah. Yeah. We're working on the Judy Garland biopic next, right, Tones?
Yeah.
Yeah, after the 2 and 3. So we're coming to the end of our little visit.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. Thank you for renting or stealing or whatever you did.
Yeah, or watching. No, they wouldn't be watching on demand, would they?
No, not likely.
Yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate that.
I
eh?
appreciate people checking it out and
Yeah.
listening to this. And
Oh, absolutely.
we were trying to, it's always a little awkward doing these commentaries, but, I think maybe the opportunity to kind of introduce people to the idea that this is a part of a trilogy, if we're lucky enough
Yeah.
to finish the project in a way. This is kind of the, as we said a million times, the entree.
Yeah, it's the calling card for the
Yeah.
real deal.
And we salute all our
Hats
folk
off
there.
to you. Hats off to you. Well done.
Yeah, well done.
Well done. Well done.
And I don't know if there's much
Boyd
left.
Banks. There's that scene where Boyd Banks goes
As
as Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
He did that on the thing, right? He just did that ad-lib that in the scene, right? It wasn't.
Yeah.
And I'm standing beside him, and you see it in the film. I look up at him, and my eyebrows go up.
Yeah.
That's because I didn't know what the fuck he did that for. And it's actually caught on the thing, right? And that's
It's the jihad. It's the jihad.
the jihad
side.
thing, right? And then when actually at the end of that scene, when you said cut, I turned to him and I said, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And so some of that kind of like is real, actually. I was kidding.
That's good. You were in character.
I was in character.
Yeah. Well, you were on the cover of that literary magazine. You and Stephen Brogan as the jihad dudes. What was that?
Oh no, that was Snake from Degrassi
Right.
protects me from jihad.
Right.
Yeah.
He's embracing you or something, right?
He's protecting me while I look to the threatening skies.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
I'm
touching.
his child or something.
Right. It's a touching image.
It is, yeah. It's very moving, and it's Snake from Degrassi, so you've probably called a few people up, and they said no, but Snake said yes. So what does that tell you about him? Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a mensch.
He's a mensch. So Snake from Degrassi.
Well, he's a director now. He's directing stuff.
he?
Yeah. Yeah. They made a zombie Degrassi something that was very popular.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. So he's writing and directing stuff, and you get him to do some second unit for Bonnie too.
Totes.
Huh?
Totes. Hey, Stefan, if you're out there, man,
Yeah.
just call.
And anybody else we should do a shout out to?
Yeah, bring lots of money
Yeah.
so we can make a movie. I want to make an awesome movie.
Yeah.
And I'm kidding, awesome. Best movie, I guarantee you. You bring your money, we'll make you the best movie that's been made ever that year. We're blowing heads off, right? Heads
Yeah.
again. We got some sick shit too to just satisfy. Because people, you know what I mean? It's like, there you go. It's so refreshing. This restrained Pontypool with its bookish, artsy ways. But really, little do they know.
Yeah.
We just want to. We've written some very, very, very bad stuff that's not ready.
Yeah. Milky trees.
Yeah. No, that's not the. It's,
Okay, here.
you know what? You go out half an hour without much. Oh, wow.
Okay, we should just let these
No.
guys go out. Huh?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Bye, bye, guys.
Okay, bye.
What's that all about, anyway? Huh? What are you doing? Who do you think you are? But you know what? It's styling, though.
Yeah.
Whew.